everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Crafted and Carved podcast. I'm Kenny. I'm so happy to be here as always to dish about all things wellness and just vibes and love and peace and whatever else we're in the mood for, right? um so I hope you guys really enjoyed episode 6. It was all about alignment. If you haven't had a chance to go listen to it, please go check it out. There probably will not be another topic that I am so passionate about for a very, very long time. How and but ever. I preface that because I also am super excited about this topic. Now, I feel like alignment is one of those things that I get so excited about because I feel like I have seen so much um I have done so much work in that space on myself and seen the direct benefits of it. And I just feel really good about it. I feel confident about that space. Obviously, there's always so much I can learn and improve upon in the various areas of my life. But alignment is something that is near and dear to my heart. And it is something that I regularly practice. Sometimes not even with, it comes with like a natural, like, okay, I know that I have to do this. I don't even have to remind myself sometimes, right? So, that is why it's one of my favorites. I say all that to say because as much as I am so excited to talk about this week's topic, your girl, transparent moment, okay, I'm still working. Like I am still like this is definitely going to be one of those episodes where I'm going to actually have to go back and listen to this myself. I'm going to have to go and take my own advice. I'm totally preaching to the choir. But I have a lot of good stuff for you guys today. So I'm really excited to share with you because it's an incredible topic. And I'm not going to keep beating around the bush. I'm going to let you guys know what it is. But I just want you to know that I am right in here with you. If this is your powerhouse and this is a topic that you are actually excelling in, please write into me. Please let me know. Guys, I told you I am going to be coming up with a mechanism for you guys to be more interactive with the podcast. And so hopefully I will have something by next week's episode, but I don't have that today. So for now, just feel free to leave comments and things like that. Definitely letting me know how you feel about this week's topic and where you stand. Okay, that's enough introduction to the introduction to the introduction. So today's topic is all about self-esteem. Okay, we hear that word all the time. So I'm not going to give you any definitions or anything specific, right? Because we hear it all the time. We all have a general sense of what it means, and then we all have our own personalized sense of what it means. So I'm going to defer to you guys. I trust you guys. I feel like, we're all smart individuals. We're all here trying to become better versions of ourselves. So I'm going to defer that whatever personalized definition you guys have of self-esteem is going to be the top tier. Like it is a 10 out of 10. And then I kind of added in self-esteem, and we're going to be exploring who am I and what am I doing here? Which kind of ties in a little bit to a conversation of purpose, which funnily enough, I don't talk too much about in this episode, but I want to tie it in right now at the very beginning for you guys because making sure that you are clear on who you are, what you're doing, and why is not really achievable unless your self-esteem is grounded, rooted, and solidified, established, blah, 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 blah. So in terms of purpose, in terms of assignment, in terms of destiny, those are all really broad terms that are going to stay broad for the purpose of this episode. How and whatever your self-esteem and it being in a place that is positive, strong, and healthy is intricately tied to that. Okay, so don't forget that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the age of social media and the highlight reel. You guys probably already know where I'm going with this, okay? Because everyone is only showing us what they think will get likes, what they think will get attention, and everyone is trying to give off the perception that they are winning or that they are living this life of goals, this goal life, like relationship goals or money goals or travel goals, right? And so social media has transformed, okay, right? Because I mean, when did the first social media come out? Was it like AIM, like AOL? I don't know. Definitely, let's just start with Facebook. But it transformed from this place where people were keeping in touch with one another and able to just kind of stay connected and communicate with one another, to a place where people are using it to gain a leverage, to gain influence, influencers and things like that, influence, and to gain notoriety over other individuals. It's a self-affirming tool. Obviously, there are a lot of positives to social media that we're not going to take away from, right? Like, we have a social media page and we post a lot of positive things on there. Please go check it out at Carved Wellness on Instagram. That's our only social media page. Um, but the reality is, just because everyone tends to have one doesn't mean that it's being used as a positive tool for positive things. And that's pretty obvious. And so it goes without saying that this age of social media and the age of the highlight reel that we are in right now and that we will probably be in for some time tends to have a negative effect on the self-esteem, on how we view ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, as, connected to the rest of the world and the rest of the things that we are seeing when we log into social media. Because sometimes we feel like when we log into social media, we get to see the rest of the world, and then we look in the mirror and then we see ourselves and we start to do this subconscious comparison. But it's definitely not fair because we're doing a subconscious comparison to people's highlight reels and to things that people are strategically posting and planning to post on social media to gain likes and influence and notoriety and attention. So no one is actually showing the lows. And when they do, quote unquote, show the lows, these are still strategically crafted um, clips and portrayals of these quote unquote lows that they're going through. You ever see someone grieving, right, over a loved one with a full face of makeup on? Or even they are grieving and their faces, they're distressed, but they're doing it because they know it will get attention, they know it will get likes, they know it will get clicks, and it may even go viral when they are barefaced and distraught and disheveled and just, in their worst quote unquote state. Um, so very little that is on social media anymore is posted with a level of authenticity and a level of realness and transparency that really helps us to connect to what's going on in the real world, let alone can help us to feel good about where we're at in the real world. Um, Also on social media, it's the age of life advice and self-care and just, these how to get rich tips, investing tips. And all of these are usually given in these quick sound bites, typically with no context. And so it's nice, but it's usually only somewhat helpful or moderate. Here we go. Moderately useful, because if you're someone who is struggling with self-esteem, for example, and you are so far deep into an abyss of depression or maybe even hopelessness, these little quick sound bites are often posted with no context. They're often posted and they're just thrown out there, and they're really only good as like reminders or like helpful little quick, just tidbits for if you're already on the right track and you're already on the right path and you've already gone to counseling and therapy and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes these quick little sound bites actually make you feel even worse about yourself because it's like, oh, I wake up and I feel beautiful. And it's like, but I don't feel beautiful when I wake up. Um, and so you feel even worse about yourself because you're not there where all these other people are purportedly at, and all these self-life advice care things are purportedly telling you need to be. And so it only makes you feel worse, which sucks. Um, and so hopefully the obvious lesson from just having this quick discussion about social media is take it all in stride, okay? Sometimes you have to remove yourself from social media altogether until you get better and really evaluate and reflect on how social media is impacting you, how social media is spilling over into your everyday habits and life lessons and the way that you interact with the rest of the world. Because if it is negative, if it is causing negative emotions, that is something that needs to be flagged, and you definitely need to do something about it, and you can do something about it because social media is totally optional. We do not have to be on social media. It's something we voluntarily sign up for. Okay, so you can always voluntarily sign out of social media and log out and delete your account and take some time to detox, and really build up your self-esteem outside of social media. Okay, so that's a quick little I guess summary of what social media is doing to impact the self-esteem of us in today's world, which is crazy because it's like, I wonder if there was something synonymous to this in like our parents' time. Was it that the magazines had the same effect, but it was a little bit slower because it takes a while for a magazine to come out? Was it the TV ads, the commercials, and things like that, radio ads, music videos, things of that sort? So it's just always really interesting to see how things evolve. So, self esteem, in my view, is all encompassing, right? I didn't want to give you guys a definition, but I definitely want to make sure that I express to you that it's not just about how you feel about how you look. As we said, it's sometimes about the fact that you may be in a certain place in life that you're not happy with, and it makes you feel bad about yourself or view yourself in a negative light. No clear cut definition, obviously, but I think the point is that self esteem encompasses your entire self outlook and how you perceive yourself, and how you view yourself as a whole. Um, and so we were just talking about, social media, and I think it's a great segue into beauty standards, which again is not the total, okay, it's not the total makeup of self esteem, but beauty standards and how we feel about our outer appearance is definitely related and involved heavily into how we perceive ourselves and feel about ourselves and value ourselves or devalue ourselves. And so I wanted to break down very quickly beauty standards, right? Because oftentimes we forget, especially in America. I don't know if it's like this in other countries, but especially in America, I feel like we forget how involved these external things are in cultivating beauty standards, trends, pop culture. Media is heavily involved in reinforcing beauty narratives, so that they can market and sell a particular item or lifestyle, etc., etc. Please go look it up, like watch, the Hollister documentary that was recently on Netflix. Um, it is a huge machine from media to actual retail stores and advertisers. It is it is no joke. Okay, so first and foremost, this may go without saying, but westernized beauty standards have absolutely infiltrated globe on a global scale in terms of the standard, right, of beauty that everyone aspires to have. And I'm serious about that. And I used to think it wasn't the case because I'm like, look at in these other cultures how they embrace, people of different hues and hair colors and shades and shapes. But then when I went overseas and I spent more time observing other cultures, I recognized that nope, it's still the same. This idea of blonde hair and blue eyes is has infiltrated almost every single culture from east to west. There are some that it has not, praise God, but there are so many that it's infiltrated. Um from the Asian cultures to the Spanish cultures to the African cultures to just the Middle East, you name it. Somebody somewhere has purchased a wig, hair dye, and skin lightening cream, as well as colored contact lens, so that they can portray a more westernized look and appearance, which sucks. I haven't done my research on that particular thing, but to understand exactly why that's the case, where that started, and why. So if anybody knows, please drop down in the comments. But I wanted to kind of also, just take a moment to say, well, that's dumb, okay? Like that's dumb, right? Because there are some beautiful people all across this country, all across the globe. And they don't have blue eyes and they don't have blonde hair and their hair is not silky and it's not long and straight. Um, and it goes to the latter point that I'm gonna say it again because it can't be said enough, that beauty is subjective. But again, we find that these narratives, the westernized look, is reinforced time and time again in pop culture, in music, in books, in television, in radio, in magazines, almost every form of media that you can imagine, especially if it's pop culture, especially if it's in the United States. Okay, so let's go ahead and just put us out there, especially if it's in the United States, but absolutely all over the globe. And it's just all designed to kind of brainwash us culturally and reinforce beauty narratives and kind of like promote whatever it is that they're trying to sell. We all, right, can raise our hands and say that at one time we bought in to the concept or idea that lighter skin and lighter eyes was more beautiful. Whether it was a way to devalue yourself or not, that was just what was being fed through the media and the news. When you look up on TV, the front singer of every R&B group, the a lead actress, the lady on the commercial, um, is always going to have that or at least have that kind of physical makeup. And it sucks. But like I said, all sorts of countries, not just the United States, have been discriminating against individuals of darker hues and given favoritism to lighter skin and light eyes. And so this is not just a United States thing. I mean, even just think before we go into a conversation, which I don't really actually want to get into, so I won't. So without going into a conversation about race, even just think very generally about how beauty narratives and certain narratives, physical narratives are reinforced through the selection of certain races and complexions, hair colors, even for certain roles, right? In like movies and television shows, you've got the dumb blonde, um, versus the high powered boss lady brunette. Usually, now things have changed somewhat, but usually you see the blonde being more sexualized, um and her intelligence being watered down, and then the brunette being more high powered, wearing glasses, maybe running a law firm or something of that sort, or running some high powered corporate business. And even if the blonde woman is in a position to do those things, she almost always ends up being sexualized, or just kind of, you know, looked at as this sexual object, which sucks. And then there are so many, other aspects of that same thing, right, that do come into play when we talk about like race, where you'll see a strong boss woman with darker skin, and then usually the, sweet, kind, docile, I maybe just like girlfriend, right? Or even the mistress who has lighter skin. Um, and don't get me wrong, guys, these are all generalizations. This is not true across the board. I know there are plenty of movies and shows, especially as things have developed over time in 2023 and so on and so forth. We have more producers of color, we have more women producers of color, we have more women producers in general, that are white and non-white, in spaces that are creating film and television, music videos, etc., that do not reinforce those narratives. So that's wonderful, and that is huge. But the reality is it's new, right? And so a lot of what has already been ingrained in us came from the earlier stages, the earlier years, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, where we didn't have that and we didn't see that, and those narratives were projected so heavily that maybe they kind of infiltrated, into the way that we think about the world, the way that your parents think about the world, and the way that they spoke to you and talked to you, and maybe talk to your siblings, etc., etc., etc. So just something to be mindful of. Definitely something to be mindful of. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about self-love, right? Which is a bucket inside of self-esteem. Self-esteem is the larger concept. There is outer appearance that is important. And then, of course, there is the inside, right? Which I actually think starts with self love. Self love is not always about loving the outer appearance, but it can be related to that as well. I want you guys to think about all of these concepts as not being mutually exclusive, meaning like it's not just this or that. It's all tied together, it's all related, sometimes overlapping. So anyway, I really wanted to, and I did. I went down a rabbit hole, right, of trying to understand what it means to love yourselves. So I didn't I didn't come up with a definition for self-esteem, but I wanted to figure out what are people saying about self-love. And what I found is that there are two schools of thought. One kind of perpetuates the idea that you're constantly putting yourself first and above everybody else. And you're giving, I don't know if y'all been listening to the rest of my episodes, but if you have, you're probably raising an eyebrow because you're like, wait a minute, what? Um, And you're right. I don't love that definition. I don't think it's bad, but I don't love it because I do think that self love is absolutely more than just putting yourself first. I think there is a time to be selfish, but I don't always think that a self-centered approach is always going to equate to self-love, because there is sometimes a time where you're going to have to put others first, but that doesn't mean that you do not love yourself, and that does not mean that you are not loving yourself while also putting someone else's needs ahead of your own. um I think there's a way to do both, which I won't get into. But for this purpose, the first school of thought is not my favorite. But just in case you guys go in a Google search and you do find these narratives and definitions, you'll know that I didn't lie to you, and that there are people out there that truly believe that self love is um, being self focused and putting yourself above all other people and things. Um, Other school of thought is that you are regularly and consistently giving positivity and complete acceptance of who you are right now and the space that you're currently in. So, boom, that automatically sounds like a definition that I wrote myself. I did not, I promise you. I grasped that from a variety of different articles that I found, and I obviously like this one a lot more than the first one. But I think there's some wiggle room there, similar to how I feel about self esteem. You can define it in whatever way that you see fit. But I do want to pause for a second, because giving positivity and complete acceptance of who you are right now and the space you're currently in, that is not an easy concept to grasp, right? What I take from that is that no matter what space you're in, no matter where you're at, no matter who doesn't like it, you're always going to accept it, and um you're always going to inject positivity into it instead of negativity. So not only do you accept, like, okay, I guess this is just where I'm at right now. Oh, woe is me. No, 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 no. This is where I'm at right now. It is okay. I'm going to be fine. I am strong. But even in this moment, if I'm not feeling strong, that is also okay. I have support systems. I will find community. I will do what I need to be happy and healthy and whole during this time. That is a thought process, a series of thoughts, a trail of thoughts that I believe is um, not only, it's like a cycle. So it's not only necessary to build self-love, but it's also the product of self-love, right? So you're saying these things so that you can build up your own self-love, but in doing so, once you really achieve that self-love, that kind of stuff just starts to come out. Okay. So the definition that I love the most, short, sweet, and to the point, is that self-love is cultivating self-acceptance and authenticity while recognizing and managing your inner critic. Yes, I grabbed this. I need to find the citation, because I definitely, it's not like it's not a direct quote, but I definitely stole this from an incredible resource on self love. So I'll try to cite that in my show notes. Um, but yeah, cultivating self acceptance and authenticity while recognizing and managing your inner critic. That is self love. Um, and so we often, right, we talk about self love and mix it in with self care all the time, often watering it down to just a warm bath or pampering ourselves and indulging in all these pleasurable things, which we know that that is not even what self care is by itself. We talked about that in one of the episodes, the episode called The Wellness Well. Please go check it out. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4. Go listen to that. It might be episode 2, actually. But it's so much more broad than that. And it's so much more deep than that. It's not just about a bubble bath and, indulging in pleasure. It's so much more deep than that. It is healing. It is care. It is nurturing. Love, love and care are obviously not the same thing, right? On their own. But both, right, are just more than just giving yourself a little treat. It's so much deeper than that. So I hope that you guys are able to grasp that. And I wanted to kind of throw out, we talked about obviously what self-love is. We have a little definition, but I wanted to make sure that I put out there what self love is not. And the reason why I want to do that very quickly is because there may be some of you who are experiencing some feelings, some thoughts, some behaviors um, that you do not recognize are linked to a lack of self love. So I'm going to go down this list. And if there's anything that you identify with on this list, then you need to keep listening, because later on I'm going to talk about some ways that we can work on our self love. And this, honey, is for you. Okay. And for me too. Like I said at the beginning, this is also for me. But I made up a list, right? Because self love is not feelings of inadequacy, feelings of shame, feelings of anger. And let me pause there, because anger is a valid feeling, right? But when I say self love is not feelings of anger, it's anger towards yourself. Okay. Sometimes we can be angry at the world, right? But anger towards yourself. And that's the same for shame and inadequacy. These are all self projected feelings. You feeling inadequate, you feeling shame, and you feeling anger. That is not self love. Self love is not a feeling or a drive to prove ourselves to others. Self is not constant feelings of loneliness. And let me be clear, loneliness is a feeling that we will all experience. It is not wrong. But the reality is, if you are loving on yourself regularly, you will find a way to put yourself in spaces that heal you and that don't isolate you, that heal you socially. Let me be clear, that heal you socially and that do not isolate you. Because if you're like me, I have a really hard time, because I've had a lot of hurt and experiences trying to make friends, trying to branch out and socialize and be in different groups of people. And it has been so difficult that sometimes it feels easier to isolate. And because it feels easier to isolate, sometimes it results in loneliness. Okay. And sometimes, and isolation and loneliness are not the same thing. Sometimes you are isolated for a season, a reason, and a time and a purpose. And yes, but if you are feeling lonely, that is something that you have control over. Okay. I hate to break it to you, but you do. So that's another topic for another day and another time. But just know that is something that you have control over. And it starts with your self love. And it starts probably also with some healing. And then kind of just taking that leap and getting out there and branching into some new spaces so that you can find some community and surround yourself with people who love you and support you. Okay. Self love is not guilt, feelings of guilt. Self love is not feelings of rejection. So when you find that these feelings are coming up, whether you've inflicted the feelings of guilt on yourself or the feelings of rejection or other people have inflicted those upon you, you are not loving yourself if you continue to allow those feelings to be projected onto you by yourself or by other people. So if somebody else is doing that, then you need to remove yourself from those people, even if it is just temporary, so that you can figure out how to set boundaries and limitations so that they are not able to inflict those negative feelings onto you. Okay. And last but not least, so a lack of self-love typically produces negative self-talk and can generate feelings of anxiety, sadness, or hopelessness. Okay. So we've all been there, right? We've all had some negative self-talk. We've all had some general feelings of anxiety, sadness, and hopelessness. Every time that that happens, yes, it is not a result of self-love every single time. But if that is something that you're experiencing, regular negative self talk, or even some negative self talk, anxiety, sadness, or hopelessness, this is the time for you to sit down and reflect. This is the time for you to sit down and say, wait a minute, hold up, and, keep listening, okay? Because we're going to keep talking about what we can do, okay? And so I'm not sure why, but I wanted to circle back on just giving you guys a little love because, particularly with the outer appearance, we tend to forget that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And we talked earlier about, social media. We talked about beauty standards, all the wonderful things. Um, but I need you guys to get this. And I told you I was going to come back to it because it's so important. It's key. So I'm going to be peppering this in until this episode is over. But beauty is literally in the eye of the beholder. It really is. And what does that mean when they say that? It means that it's subjective. Okay. And when it's subjective versus objective, it means that it's up to the individual person. Why do you think some days, when you were and you were 18, your preferences on what was hot and sexy is totally different to what your preferences are now as a 38-year-old? You change. Your interests change. Your desires change. What you are physically attracted to changes. Our preference change as societal trends change. Our preferences and our attractions change as we evolve and transcend into new spaces and as we gain new experiences, because we're constantly exposed to more and more information, more and more knowledge, more and more visual stimulation. So what we're attracted to is going to change. And that's just that on that, right? But the reality is, okay, we really have to make sure, and y'all gonna hate me, but it's true. But we really have to make sure that we're focusing on building what's on the inside. No, it's true, it's true, it's true, it's true, it's true. Focus on building what's on the inside because that is always going to transcend the outside and end up creating what we call a timeless beauty, like the Dorothy Dandridges and the Marilyn Monroe. Like when you listen to these women's stories, yes, they had exquisite outer beauty, but it's always been about the story that unfolded with who they were on the inside that carried them far beyond the exterior beauty. Because if you really think about it, like, yes, there are some really beautiful women. There were so many people actually that had similar looks to these women, but it was about who they were, and how they left their mark on society and the era that they were in. Okay, so let's take a mini dive into some of this inner beauty, what's on the inside stuff, right? I want to talk more because I feel like we hear inner beauty and it makes us want to vomit. We just like, I'm so sick. Like, yes, I have a great personality. I know I have a good personality, but I want to be cute on the outside too. But all of that is is just relative to the reality. All of that is just relative to the fact that you can be the most gorgeous person on the outside but ugly on the inside, and that is going to taint and tarnish that outer exterior. It's only going to last but so long. I've seen it happen time and time again. Yes, the beautiful people always get chosen first, but it doesn't last. I don't have any examples right now, so don't hate me, but it's true. Like, it just never works. You have to have that beauty and that special essence on the inside. And a lot of times that is not going to come without some true healing first. Healing of insecurities, soul ties, and trauma. So, I want you guys, to go back and listen to episode 4, The Cycles of Hurt, where I talk a lot about how to heal from a lot of these things that I just named: insecurity, soul ties, and trauma. Um, but I want to talk about it very quickly here. A lot of times in this context, in the context of self-esteem, that can look like somebody who verbally abused you, somebody that bullied you or taunted you, etc., etc. Obviously, a soul tie, somebody that you were connected with at a very intimate level. And so now, negative aspects of who they are bleeding in and seeping into who you are. That is a real thing. Look it up. And then, of course, any trauma that you may identify or are working to identify that may have happened to you. And that's just the reality, because sometimes self-esteem is not going to always come from general societal pressures of magazines and social media. Sometimes your self-esteem has been broken down because of these things that happen to you, these external things that happen by random individuals. And I want to just take a second to be serious and say that I've been there. It sucks. And I empathize with you if you were a victim of any of these things, okay? Because it's not right. But I also want to encourage you and let you know that you got this, okay? Like, you got this, okay? You're built for this and then some. So you can do it and you can pull yourself to the other side. And I don't just mean, because you're probably not still sulking around from something that happened to you in second grade, but you may have become a nasty person, or you may have become a shy, timid, and scared person, all because of something that happened when you were in second grade. And so I just want you to know that it's not too late to blossom. It's not too late to break out of your shell. It's not too late to transition. All right. So just know, but just keep in mind that if those are some things, experiences, circumstances that you dealt with in life, that those things may have created some insecurities within you and ultimately have impacted your self-esteem and self-worth. And if that's the case, there's going to need to be some extra time for reflection, extra time of kind of just sitting with yourself, and maybe even considering going to therapy, but definitely considering talking to somebody else other than just yourself, and giving yourself some space to really cope and heal with those things that happen to you before you can really start working on and honing your inner beauty, which is the next phase. Okay, right? Honing your inner beauty. This is just like, this is something I wish people and media and everyone threw at us, instead of throwing at us magazines and sex sells and blah 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 blah. I wish that they promoted and pushed honing your inner beauty, because like I said, all of the most amazing people have this spirit, this essence on the inside, that is what actually made them famous and amazing and stand out. It wasn't just their looks, because anybody can be a size 2 and wear the latest clothes. Okay, that's easy. Anybody can get their hair done and their makeup done. But beauty is radiating from the inside out. And so honing your inner beauty is absolutely key. But you get to be creative, okay? Because inner beauty is literally just the unique things about you that make you you. And so it gets to be whatever you want it to be. You can literally wake up and redefine yourself over and over and over again until you get it right, and until you feel good, and until you love what you see, until you love what you hear and feel when you look at yourself in the mirror. So you honestly have to remove that pressure Um, and find the acceptance and the freedom to just live your life and be who you currently are today. Be who you currently are today, okay? You're obviously going to be working on yourself, but just be who you are today and be the best version of yourself today. Like, I can't stand when people, these little terms of arts and trends of pop culture of today, like best version. I'm trying to be my best version, but that no truer statement has been said. Like, just be you, but be the best you. Don't just come up and show up with a mediocre you. Be the best you. And I promise you that the best you is going to literally be a version that everyone is going to be like, whoa, because confidence is what is so sexy and attractive and exciting nowadays. People are obsessed with confidence because so very few people have it. So stop comparing yourself to somebody else. Stop comparing yourself to social media and influencers and people who went and got and laid down under a knife. And that's all fine and well. We're not shaming them. That's great. But you stop comparing yourself to that. And you focus on what makes you beautiful, because what makes them beautiful may not be the thing that makes you beautiful. So you got to focus on what makes you beautiful and embrace that and promote that. Okay. Um, but really, guys, all that matters is that you see it as beautiful and that you see it as worth loving and that you embrace it and that you define it and embody it and just, like I said, be that best version of you. And that's really all that honing your inner beauty is. It's not that hard. You literally just have to be yourself and stop caring so much about what other people think, and live your life to the fullest, and don't stop living. Okay, so here is what you have all been waiting for. Drum roll, please. Just kidding. Um, I want to talk to you about some things that I think would help you guys build and or rebuild your self-esteem. And these are like real practical things. Trust me, these aren't just like random little, like, I threw this in here because it sounded good. These are things that I had to do. These are things that I'm still working on doing. These are things that I have done in the past that have helped me. And these are things that I'm trying to do currently because I believe that they are currently helping me. Okay, so the first thing is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is important. We hear the word all the time. It has become a trend, it has become a term of pop culture. There are gratitude journals, all sorts of things that you can buy on Amazon and whatever to help you practice gratitude if that is helpful for you. But the reality is, gratitude is not that hard. It's just about being thankful and grateful and recognizing that you have very little to do with the rest of the world, okay? And so the fact that you have food on the table, the fact that you have electricity running into your house, yes, I know you paid the bill, but the fact that that line runs into your house, from another line to from a tower, from another tower that is all the way in the middle of nowhere in some humongous power plant that somebody's father, is drilling it, all the stuff. Like, when you really think about how blessed we are, particularly in America in this day and age, to have the things that we have, you will realize that you did very little to make it happen except pay the bills, which is good and important, because some people can't even do that. But just opening yourself up to be grateful for the fact that you have a Wi-Fi connect. Like, come on, y'all. We don't even have wireless internet anymore. There is a signal somewhere doing some sort of laser beam situation into your room as you listen to this podcast to help you listen to me, who may be thousands of miles away from you, um, which is just crazy. So be grateful, for just the little things in life. Practice gratitude. whether it's to the actual people or even to the God above who is breathing life into your lungs and allowing you to be alive and blood to flow through your veins and sit here, ears to hear, eyes to see. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. That is something that I think really helps because it will allow you to formulate a love for small things in the outside space, which hopefully will trickle into a greater love and appreciation for the small things within yourself as well. And so, and if it doesn't, then you have to be intentional about making the connection, right? So being grateful about the little things about yourself as well. Like, add some things in there about yourself, like the way your eyebrows look or the way your skin glistens after you put on the coconut oil, whatever it is. Um, you know, just start being more aware of the things that you can take inventory of and be grateful for. The second thing is to constantly find ways to lift up other people and see the true beauty in other people because there is room for all of us at the table. Um, this one is big, but it's pretty straightforward, Lift up other people. Don't be that person that can't clap for someone else because you wish you would have got it first or you are waiting for your turn. No, you have to clap for them. And clap for them honestly and genuinely, not, just because it looks good. No, there's room for you too, baby. And in order for that room to even be made, sometimes you have to show that you are willing to let somebody else get there as well. So, the more, of course, you celebrate others and see their true beauty, again, hopefully you will find that within yourself. Um, Practice positive self-talk and say things to encourage yourself. So if you are somebody, this is specifically for those who regularly find themselves in a rut of negative self-talk. I'm gonna need y'all to pull out the flashcards and start writing kind things down on those flashcards about yourself. And this is where affirmations come in. If you have never done an affirmation, go and look up um affirmations on YouTube and Instagram and all of those things and find good ones, positive ones. Don't just find any ones. And start writing them down on note cards and tape them to your mirror and say them every day before you leave your house. Um, you know, Make them relative to what you're dealing with in life and where you're at in life and say them and encourage yourself. You can also do the same thing with Bible scriptures. Your affirmations should always start with I am. And there are plenty of I am scriptures in the Bible. In fact, I'm going to definitely drop a couple before we leave the episode, as you know, because y'all thought we was going to make it through a whole episode and I was going to give y'all no scripture and you wrong. So, yes, positive self talk. Then you're going to need to surround yourself with people who also affirm you or at least want to see you win and are comfortable with affirming you. And so that's pretty straightforward. Like, if you're around people that are contributing to your negative self talk, get away from them. Get around people who are confident about affirming you and happy to affirm you. And if they're not already affirming you, as long as they're not doing negative self-talk, it's okay, right? Because if they're not already affirming you, it may be just something you need to tell them. Like, hey, I need some affirmations, especially if it's a significant other. Tell that man or woman, like, look, babe, this is something I really need. I need you to remind me, that I'm a good cook, that I'm a good wife, that I'm a good husband, I'm a good boyfriend, girlfriend, I'm a good friend, I'm a good dog mom, I'm a good auntie. I need that. Tell these people and ask them to say it every once in a while. And if they love you, they should be, happy to do that for you. You can also surround yourself with positive music, movies, and TV shows as well as encouraging books that you can read, and whatever media that you regularly consume, just try swapping it out for something that's more positive and encouraging. Doesn't mean get rid of everything. This is not one of those get rid of everything situations. It's just about finding a balance. Whereas if you're always constantly listening to negative music and music that is like, just garbage and trash. Look, we all have our moments. We all like a little gutter every once in a while. Okay, look. But the reality is we have to balance it in, because we need to be feeding our spirit with what we want to come out, right? Which is positivity, and um, feelings of good feelings that we have towards ourselves, and positive feelings towards ourselves. So if we're constantly listening to people who say negative things about themselves or negative things about women or men or whatever, then it's not going to really be what we produce. So, yeah, just think about that. Um, the next thing is you can find a positive outlet that reinforces your inner and outer strength, like taking an art class, or a painting class or something like that. And the reason why I said art class, painting class, because that is relative to my inner and outer strengths. I am a creative, and I love to express my creative, I guess, abilities outwardly through like a painting, through art, through media. And because that is something that I love and am passionate about, finding ways to do that or taking time to do that is very positive for me. It makes me feel good in general. It brings me peace and calm, but also makes me feel good about myself, if I'm being completely honest, because I'm like, wow, look at this amazing painting that I just did. I don't care if anybody else likes it, but I love it. Um, you find satisfaction in doing something that you're good at or something that you feel proud of, right? So in this space, with the self-esteem space, it is, yes, you do want to find a nice outlet, but this one is more about finding an outlet that can reinforce the things that you're good at, right? So if you are a writer, write something. Okay, write a short story and post it on a blog. If you are somebody who is a singer, sing a song, child, and put it up on social media, or not, or just record it and listen to it, and practice those runs, and do some YouTube voice training, whatever it is that you're good at. um find ways to reinforce that so that you can say, wow, look at me, I'm doing something bomb, and let that success in that moment build you up, to keep you going, to continue to do really incredible things. Another thing that you can do for your self-esteem is to journal. I'm always telling you guys to journal. I'm going to tell you guys in every episode to journal. I love to journal. You don't have to journal, but it's just something that you can do. You can write love notes to yourself or letters to the future or past you. um, Writing letters to yourself is very weird, but it's very healing. It's a weird practice, but it is a very healing practice. And it can definitely help you to center yourself and unlock some of those weird kind of crevices and spaces that you don't um, regularly encounter. The next thing is, boom, you gonna have to set some boundaries. Okay. Self-love is absolutely setting boundaries. Don't let everybody in and don't let everybody out. Meaning that if you have a relationship that you want to keep private, keep it private. Don't let it out. You know what I'm saying? Don't let everybody in and don't let everybody out. Set boundaries. Set boundaries at work, set boundaries in friendships, set boundaries in romantic relationships. Set boundaries, set boundaries, set boundaries. But don't put up walls. Boundaries and walls are very different. Boundary is, hey, this is an intentional placement to let you know that you cannot come back here because you do not have access. You can potentially get access, but you do not have it right now. And boundaries are regularly monitored, maintained, and reassessed. Whereas a wall is like, here it is, it ain't coming down. You're gonna have to shout, walk around 7 times and shout. Okay, Battle of Jericho. Make sure that you are also practicing kindness and patience with others too. I just want to throw that out there. Um, because kindness and patience definitely helps breed self-love. Um, Kindness and patience is not easy, but kindness and patience is a way to soften your disposition and soften your outer demeanor towards other people. And this goes for women and men. It's not softness is not the same thing as weakness. Softness and a soft approach is a strength because when you're able to present and move in a softer space, you usually are more clear-headed, you are more level-headed, you move, you're not moving super fast. You're moving with more appreciation and understanding. Um and so that's another topic for another time. But just know that setting your boundaries and practicing kindness and patience will definitely help you get to a space of self love as well. And the last but not least optional tip, get a pet, you guys. I feel so bad because I had to kick my dogs out in order to film this. I have allowed them in here once upon a time, and it did not go well. You guys may have even heard on one of the episodes because it was a hot mess. It's like one of my dogs just like sneezing the whole time and yawning, and it was, yeah. But I mean, okay, I don't know what kind of pet you want, whether it be a cat, a dog, or what. But if you have the ability to get a pet and you will be able to take care of it and you will be responsible and do the right thing in caring for the pet, why not? Pets are amazing, and pets, they give unconditional love. They give a love that isn't actually capable of being given in human form because you don't have to do anything deep for this dog or cat. Like, you feed it and you come home and you get love, and that's it. And they don't really talk too much. They don't have a lot to say. They don't really fuss. But you're gonna get lots of love and affection and cuddles and snuggles. Well, depending on the animal, but more than likely, some form of affection from any pet you will receive just for being you. And that is always a very positive and beautiful reminder of how easy we are to love and how deserving we are of love. Okay? So, guys, this episode is definitely getting lengthy, which I adore because um, there's so much going on here with this topic. Um, and I think that that is important. And I think that that is what makes these types of conversations so essential. But before I leave you, I have a million bajillion verses that I wanted to read off, but I'm only going to read a few. Um, they are verses to help remind us of who we are in Christ because beauty is fleeting, emotions are fleeting, and inner beauty only goes but so far when you do not know who you are in Christ. Okay? So we've got First Peter 2 and 9, which says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." That is a verse that is I should have chosen a more simple verse. That verse is jam-packed with all sorts of just golden nuggets. Um, but I'll say this. This verse is a perfect example of how we regularly diminish our value, we regularly diminish our worth, and we regularly diminish our impact and our placement in this world. If you are a child of God, which I hope that you are, and if you are not, please let me know. Get you some resources to make that happen for you. But if you are a child of God, First Peter 2 and 9 is saying that you are a chosen people. a you are royalty. You are holy. You are a special possession of God. You are not just God's possession. You are special to the God of this universe. And he is calling you out of darkness into his wonderful light. This verse, there are so many verses in the Bible that help me to, you know, feel connected to who I am in Christ. But this verse is so amazing because it just spews so many positive things about who I am as a human being, as an imperfect human being. Somehow I am still chosen by God. Somehow I am still a part of the royal priesthood. Somehow I am still a holy nation and God's special possession. Boom. Self-esteem points just went up 50,000. Okay. And last but not least, I'm giving you guys two quick verses, mainly because they come together. And I'm going to give you guys the citations for the others. Hopefully you'll look them up for yourselves. But if you don't, that's okay. Ephesians 2:10, which says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." I really love this one. It's short, sweet, and to the point, because of that first phrase that just says, "We are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Obviously, I read the whole verse again, but it's about that first phrase. We are God's handiwork. God created us. He crafted us, which, of course, I love because that is the podcast. That is the podcast reason for existence, to impose the idea and reinforce the reality that we are crafted by God, that we are created by God, we are his handiwork. Which of course that means I had to drop our theme verse for the brand, Isaiah 49:16. "Behold, I have carved you in the palm of my hands. Thy walls are continuously before me." If you go back and listen to episode 1, there are a lot of plugs for the episodes in this podcast on this episode, which I'm loving that I even remember. But if you go back and listen to episode 1, I tried to give you guys a little introductory spiel to why this podcast came about, the name Crafted and Carved podcast. And I didn't talk about Ephesians 2:10, but I definitely made sure to emphasize Isaiah 49:16 and the fact that that's the theme verse for the brand. And really, the two go hand in hand to kind of drive that home, right? We are God's craftsmanship, okay? And he loves us. We are his. We are the work of an all. So, look, don't let me get carried away, because you really have to understand and appreciate who God is in order to be blown away by this verse. So if that's not you, then I'm sorry. I guess just skip ahead. We're almost done. But the reality is, if you understand the amazingness of a God of this universe, the creator of this universe, and the fact that he created you, specifically you, not just human beings, but created specifically you, and that you were carved into the palm of his hand, that you are so special to him, you would never have a second doubt in your mind of whether you were worthy, whether you are valuable, whether you are significant, and your self-esteem better be through the roof, bursting through all the glass ceilings. Okay. All right. So like I said, I'm not going to read these other two verses out loud because, you know, we going to need a part 2 to this episode. Honestly, if we keep doing that, keep going. But the other verse is Colossians 2:9-10. And Ephesians 1:3-8. So Colossians 2:9-10 and Ephesians 1:3-8. And so I hope that you guys will go and look at those and read those. Add them to your morning devotional. Add them to your prayer time. And add them to some note cards or post-it notes for when you are feeling low, when you are feeling down about yourself, and you are feeling unsure or lost about your identity and um, what you are meant to be in this world. These verses serve as some really incredible reminders of exactly who we are and why we're here. Um, which I told you guys I wasn't going to go into it, but it's all related and it definitely circles back um, to the title of the episode, Self-Esteem. Who am I and what am I doing here? All right, you guys. So I hope that this episode has been as important, right? Important to you as it has been to me, but also as helpful and useful, encouraging and insightful to you as it has been to me. As always, if this episode resonated with you guys, please send it to somebody you love. You never know who needs to hear this or who might just like to giggle along with you and me as we dive into wellness, as we dive into our spirituality, and we just explore all different types of topics. Guys, I have some good things in store for us. I promise there are some really exciting shifts coming in the upcoming episodes. But we have one more episode until we switch gears completely. And I can't wait to talk about that next week. So please stay tuned, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I love you guys so, so much. See